Facing the screen, our camera's over here. So welcome everybody to the Medicare Cafe. As always, you are joined by your hosts. My name's Olivia Richardson.
And I'm Carrie Vogt. Good morning.
Good morning. And again, we do want to say thank you guys so much for bearing with us. We're actually getting a new studio computer today because our studio computer literally basically crashed right before we started today. So I'm currently using two different computers that are doing two different things right now. So appreciate your patience. If you are having any audio or any visual issues, let us know, and we're going to say you're probably right. Also, the sirens that you hear in the background are not like the crazy wagon coming to get us. It is Tornado Awareness
drills.
Day. Yes.
Yeah.
What would we do in a tornado here? This is not a safe room.
No, right next door.
Yeah, I guess so, because we are literally like an external wall on three of these walls.
It wouldn't be good.
So today, what are we talking about today? Today, we're going to be talking about what you should be doing after your appointment. Like either you've made the sale or you've not made a sale, but the appointment has ended. What is your next steps to kind of take your appointment and even the whole process to the next level?
This might be my favorite topic we've talked about.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how
since
exciting.
I've been on here. I'm really excited about this one. I think it's just some really important stuff.
That's fair.
Plus, like, I'm an organizer, and I think all this has to do with organization, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
I'm so bad at organization that I become hyper aware of how bad I am. So then I become like obsessed with being organized. So there's a little peek into my mental state. So first of all, whenever you at the end of an appointment, you always set a follow-up appointment. Setting up a follow-up appointment is one of the best ways to actually have retention and referrals. One of the biggest reasons for that is, like, imagine going to like the dentist. I actually have a dentist appointment today.
Okay.
So imagine like if you have a dentist appointment and let's say like you chip a tooth or something's going wrong or you have questions about your dental health care, you're not going to then go like, well, what dentist should I go to? I have an appointment coming up. I'll either gonna wait until that appointment or I'm gonna call and see if I can move up my appointment.
Yeah.
Because that relationship's already established. They already sold me on the purpose of the next appointment. So you don't have to resell me as to why I need to go to the dentist because you set that appointment before I left. And this is something you mentioned. This is especially true with your Medicare Advantage clients.
Yes. And it's not necessarily maybe an appointment, but it's at least a phone call. If I have somebody that has switched from original Medicare and maybe they're in their trial right with an Advantage plan, or they've officially made the switch, whatever it is, I make a point to, typically it's about 2 to 3 months after they've made that change, I will call them and say, how's it going? You know, a lot of people are really anxious to make that switch, or they're really excited to make that switch, whatever it is. And I just want to touch base since they are so completely different. Like, hey, I know it's only been a couple months. Maybe you haven't even had time to use it yet, but how are you liking your new style of health coverage?
And so that's really
I think
cool.
They really appreciate that.
For sure. Just because like it shows that you actually care. Right. You didn't just sign them up and leave them. And like then they're going to be much more likely to accept your calls because you're not just trying to sell them something every single phone call.
Exactly.
I think that's too, like we have a lot of people who have 300, 400, 1,000, also known as 1,000 clients. I'm just not on my game today. 1,000 clients. 1,000 clients. And they'll actually like have their admin staff do those follow-up calls.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's not necessarily like a money-making activity for you, but it's something like, hey, my staff is reaching out to you and we're just making sure, have you used your gym membership? Not being like, are you being a fatty on the couch? But like, do you have questions on how to use it? Have you set your first dental appointment? Have you, are you using, do you need help ordering drugs off of the over-the-counter benefits? So it's actually a really cool idea for like your admin team to do as well.
That was exactly what I needed to hear. I think that should be something that I should, let go of the reins a little and give that to my assistant to do.
Well, it's really cool because like you don't want to put yourself in a position to where your clients will only talk to you because then like you will keep all of your time being really busy and not producing more.
But that is one thing that could maybe even strengthen that relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. Strengthen the relationship between your admin and your clients. Makes them really comfortable with them as well. So the next thing we say that you should absolutely be doing after your appointment is going to be to set the right expectation is to, you do this, you talk about this.
To set the right expectation about, to also add to this, to what what comes next? You know, how
Mm-hmm.
soon will you get your welcome packet in the mail from your MedSup, from your Part D? I always say it'll be about, sometimes it can take 2 to 4 weeks. And whenever you get that, set the expectation that if you look through that and have questions, you can call me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't go through that blind. You can call me, you can call my assistant, my staff. And a lot of times, to add to this, I think the expectations on when the auto draft will come out.
Oh, that's a really good
I
point.
get a lot of questions about that, especially because, you know, if you do have a MedSup and a PDP, a lot of times they're not the same date.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important for the auto draft if they do
Yeah.
set that up.
I think the biggest thing here is like success is measured by how well your expectations are met.
Mhm.
So like an underwriting decision could be made in like 3 or 4 days. Now we know like that's a really fast turnaround.
Right.
But if your client's expecting a decision the next day, 3 to 4 days, they're going to be really, really frustrated. And that's
Absolutely.
actually where you see the most buyer's remorse come from. People don't really, if you have a really fast turnaround or an expected turnaround, they're less anxious, they're less nervous. So they're more likely to call you up and say, you know what, I'm just going to stick with what I have, because you're messing with their health
I
care.
believe it.
Like it's anxiety
Right.
ridden for them. So if you say, hey, we're probably going to hear back from the carriers in the next 2 weeks. If they hear back from the carrier within the next week or week and a half, then they're really
Mhm.
excited. It's faster than they anticipated. So just setting their mind at ease, helping avoid that buyer's remorse, helping them avoid reversing that decision. It's all about letting them know like it's going to be a while. Make sure you
Right.
set the right expectations of what's going to happen. I also like on here adding them to your newsletter, so that way whenever
Mhm.
like you'll tell them,
I need to
hey,
get better at doing that.
yeah, and
I need
it's
to
just
do
letting
better.
them know like don't delete my email.
Right.
It's just, you know, making sure that they're looking for it and saying like kind of selling it. Like, hey, you're going to have you know, like
Get a newsletter.
exactly, you're
before
going to have
APP, all that stuff.
exercising tips, new recipes, and making them so that they're looking forward to it versus you being a bother and just sending them junk mail.
Something I also try to set a good expectation is telling them, you know, I do my best to get back to you within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that they know if they call me and they don't hear from me in 24 hours or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
call my staff or
Right.
whatever it is. Set the expectation of when they should be able to hear back from you. Now, sometimes I say during an EP, it might be 48 hours just
Mm-hmm.
because it's a busier time, but set the right expectation about how soon you can get back to them on stuff, or what's the best way to reach you. Is it to call you? Is it to
Mm-hmm.
email you?
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I have that same problem too. I'll be working on a problem with an agent. We're working on a solution together, and I'll say, I'll call you back. I'm going to call you back whenever I get some feedback on this.
Mhm.
And then 10 minutes later, they're calling me and like, hey, you haven't talked to me yet. I'm like, I should have told you. I'm going to call you before the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because for me, like 10 minutes is like, how could I have possibly have done
Right.
this? For them, they're like, I gave you 10 minutes. So it's all about setting the right expectations so that success is, they can actually gauge how successful
Especially
that
if
was.
you have to then call a carrier, and you know how sometimes that can take
Yes.
forever.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So the next thing that we're going to talk about whenever you should be doing at the end or whenever you're done with an appointment, whether you sell it or they don't, is making sure you send a thank you letter. It's super, super simple. It's kind of like rudimentary. Like everybody's like, well, duh, send a thank you letter. Most people don't do
No.
this. Most people don't do this. I like the 3-line approach. And it's kind of just like the 3-sentence, keep it super easy. Nobody wants to read a novel. And like, you don't
Right.
want to write a novel to say thank
No.
you.
Handwritten.
Very
Also.
true.
Handwritten on this one.
I always say handwritten in like blue ink because it stands out than just like your traditional black ink. And like hand address,
hand address,
everything.
and a stamp.
Yes.
Yep. No postage machine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a good touch. I never even
like
thought
the
about
stamp.
that. The stamp, because it means it's like you physically put it on there versus running it through a machine. So the 3-line approach that I like to do is the step 1 is like, thank you so much for the opportunity to sit down with you and go over your coverage. The second line is something personal about the appointment.
Yep.
So like, really enjoyed getting to learn about your tractor pulling hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed getting to learn about your grandkids. Hope you enjoy your trip to St. Lucia next week.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
that second line is really personal about that appointment. And then the third line is asking for the referral. If you know any of your friends or loved ones who also have questions about their coverage, feel free to hand out my information. And then I say send out 5 thank you cards per thank you letter.
And I also
not thank you cards, 5 business cards per thank you letter.
I also ask for the referral. I try to do my best to ask for the referral at the end of the appointment also. You know, hey, if you have any loved ones or neighbors, family or friends that you think I could help, please send them my way and give them your card also. And then I also do it in the thank you letter.
I'm gonna ask like an intimate question that agents like always kind of scared of.
Okay.
How many referrals do you get from your clients a week? Do you think like you physically asking them? Because there's a debate that I've always heard. It's like, how do you earn the referral versus asking the referral? And I believe that both are important. Do you think that physically saying like, send me referrals, doing that and physically asking for that, do you feel like those partners are more likely to refer you?
I do, because I think it gets them thinking about like, yeah, I've got a brother that's turning 65 soon, or I think it gets them thinking about it. How many a week do I get? I mean, most of my referrals come from strategic alliances or financial advisors, but probably I would say a good percent come from clients too.
Really?
Maybe one a week, maybe one every other week.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And again, like I said, it's you're focusing a lot of your attention on your professional referrals. So the fact that like your clients are going to send you one or two here and there when they think about it, but again, you're getting most of your new clients from those professional ones.
I think the asking for the referral is huge. I mean, if they say no, they say no. But I mean, nobody's gonna say no.
Have you ever had someone be like, no?
No.
It's like, no, I'm not gonna refer you. No,
do you feel like most of the agents do send thank you notes, like handwritten thank you notes? Or is it emails?
Some will do it in email. I think some will rely too heavily on emails because there's nothing beats a good old fashioned thank you note.
Agreed.
I don't see it as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
I don't see thank you notes, and I really don't see holiday cards either. But that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
Those are two things that I would encourage everybody to invest in, thank you cards. And I think the thing is too, people overcomplicate thank you cards. You don't need to like get something from like Vistaprint or from like, you don't need some beautiful design.
Fancy, no.
Literally go to Walmart or go to your local store and buy a thank you card that's on clearance. Buy them like 10 at a time or 20 at a time. Buy what's on clearance. That really like it doesn't need to be overcomplicated.
No, absolutely not.
Lastly, I would say make sure you're inviting your clients to like you on social media. And it's really easy to be like, and for me, like my husband builds and sells houses. So what I always encourage him to do is like at the closing, just say, hey, if you wanted like some tips on like how to upkeep your house, if you're wanting stuff like that, and go ahead and like my page on Facebook. It would also like you be doing me a huge favor if you would review me on Facebook as well. So doing that at the end, you can even ask for that in the thank you letter because you just provide them a pretty significant service. And so if you ask for that ask them for that favor at that moment, they're much more likely to actually go and refer you and write you a review on Facebook.
Absolutely. I've also even like circled my Facebook on like the business card that I put in there.
Yeah.
To even like, hey, find me on Facebook.
I'm here.
Yeah.
What a great idea. So again, just making sure, and like Bernadette says, she's like, I like adding you to my newsletter. I like the adding you to my newsletter. Good way to keep in touch. Absolutely. Newsletter, we do a quarterly one. Senior marketing specialist actually makes a newsletter for you 4 times a year, and they go with the seasons. So those are 4 out of your 7 contacts a year for retention. And last thing we're going to have on here, what you should be doing after the appointment. I think this is a lot of what you're talking about organization wise.
This is huge.
Is to make sure that you're updating your CRM after the appointment. And my biggest reason for that is you don't want to do it during the appointment because the client feels like they're being left out of something.
Yep.
I say like be careful to avoid that technological barrier when you're like using the CRM and you're typing on something or putting notes in the CRM, your client feels separated from that experience. And it quite literally creates a barrier.
And I think what's key to updating your CRM, obviously like important notes about follow-up and what you need to do. But for me, my biggest thing is the relationship building stuff and like adding a little tag in there of something that you'll remember about like, they just moved here from Florida because they have 7 grandkids. And so the next time I know to ask like, how are all your grandkids? Are you still watching them? I just think that is so huge. The next time they're like, oh wow, she remembers that. Everybody loves when their doctor does that.
Oh yeah.
When they remember something.
And if you think for a second that they actually remember it, then like you're so naive. It's they have it in their CRM to bring up because people want to feel special. They want to feel like what they said mattered and that somebody took time and like is thinking of them when they're not there. Yeah. So it's a great way to kind of build up that like, hey, I remember you. We had a connection beyond insurance.
Or during like AEP, this is where it's so important to add, I think we mentioned a few weeks ago when you're just busy focusing on the stuff you can change right then. If they're interested, they mention, oh, well, they want a cancer policy, or they want a dental policy. Put all of those notes in there. Or they mention they have a brother that is going to be aging in soon.
Sure.
Those are just leads that you could forget about.
Let me ask you this. During AEP, 2 questions. One, how long is your appointment during AEP? Follow-up question, how much downtime do you insist on having between appointments during AEP?
Oh gosh, downtime. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes, and it's because I need 5 minutes to write those notes so that I don't forget.
So like that's my question. Like if you only have 5 minutes between this appointment to your next appointment, what's your priority? What are you doing in between those appointments?
I try to do the notes because I've learned that's where, if I don't write notes in the account, that's where I make mistakes. So notes are my most important thing, especially also if you have an assistant or somebody, an admin. I think those notes help them. If they call in, oh, quick, they can read the notes to follow up if they don't have time to talk to you.
Sure.
And what was the first question you asked?
How long are my appointments during AEP?
If it's a review, sometimes they're 15 to 30 minutes.
Got it.
If they're not making any changes, or a lot of times my AEP, like we kind of go over stuff via email sometimes, and then we just have a quick phone appointment that's 15 to 30 minutes. If it's a new client, it's still probably 30 minutes to an hour. I never try to rush even during AEP any newbody.
Yeah. Because again, it's a first impression. If they don't understand how busy you are during AEP, so if they feel rushed, they don't care what's on your plate. They felt rushed.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Okay. So again, guys, that's what we wanted to talk about today. Is what to do once you're finished with the appointment. Again, updating the CRM. I think to your point, the organization side. This is where especially there's no excuse to not do this even in your busiest time of year, which is AEP. This is still something that needs to be held at utmost priority.
Oh, another thing I'll add to this is this could come back to save you if you do have any compliance
very true
issues. I'm big on just trying to stay compliant, which I think we all should be, but if you take good notes and it's dated and then something comes up later, you can say, well, these are the notes I have, and it can just help you in the long run.
So, and that's something a lot of agents don't understand, is that compliance isn't like this client's accusing me of threatening to break their hip if they didn't sign this, or it's most of the time complaints aren't really even malicious. A compliance complaint can be something along the lines of a client called 1-800-Medicare and saying, hey, what's my copay if I go to the doctor? I mean, that's considered a complaint because according to CMS, you must have not have just told them what the copay was, so it's considered a complaint. If the carrier reaches out to you, it's not necessarily your license is at stake. The carrier's just going to reach out to you and be like, hey, did you answer their question? Did you do a compliant presentation? So the more notes, all you have to do is just turn over your CRM notes saying this is the presentation, this is what they went over, I found out who their primary care was, and show them kind of the process of the appointment. 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, okay, you're fine, and move on. It's not even a slap on the wrist. You just have to have proper documentation that showed how you got that appointment, how you got in front of that person, and just some sort of proof that said, I did a compliant sales presentation.
Or even if I think it was during last AEP, I had a client who called very upset how she said she'd been trying to reach us. And, I looked back in their notes and I was like, so-and-so, I called you this date and left a voicemail. My assistant called you this date, left a voicemail. We had that history of 5 different times we emailed, tried to reach out, and somewhere there was a disconnect. So at least you also have that, not that you need to argue with your clients. The client's always right.
But still, hey, these are the days I try to call you. And if you look back in your phone records, I'm sure you can see that I try to call you on your cell phone and so on and so forth. Terry said, had a dentist who didn't do anything for me. Later told me I had an appointment without asking. Then they called me, told them I didn't have an appointment. They sent me a text and I missed the appointment. At what point were they missing good marketing? Thank you. I think a lot of that too is, I would say when it comes to the follow-up appointment, dentists are the best in the industry at making sure that you leave an appointment I've never
set an appointment when you leave.
Every single time. It's always 6 months out, and it's always assumed. They don't even ask, do you want to set up an appointment? They're just assuming. It looks like today, okay, so for me, I'm meeting them today over lunch. They would say, okay, so this is a Tuesday 6 months from now, we have a 1 o'clock open here. Does that work for you?
That's so funny. I can't think of any other
Profession that does that? Mm-mm. But a dentist never has to sell themselves on why you need to come back into the appointment. And I'll tell you, I'm the perfect example of that. I'm going to the dentist today at 1. I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years.
Because of COVID.
Kind of because of COVID. I couldn't get into it, more so because I was pregnant. I was really sick and I did not want people in my mouth. And then I still didn't want people in my mouth. So like, and so for me, like I didn't have, but I'll tell you why I waited 3 years. Because because whenever I was on a rush, I was leaving the dentist really quickly. The last time I was there, I didn't set it up. And it's now been 3 years. So there is psychology to making sure that you have the appointment before you leave, because they don't have to sell me while I'm there on why I need to be back there in 6 months.
I'm someone who would go to the dentist every week if I could.
Really?
I think that there's no better place than the dentist.
I'm gonna like hide my
teeth. I love having my teeth clean.
I'm gonna hide my teeth. I don't know. Like I love warm hugs. I hate don't touch my mouth.
I don't know why.
It
feels good to me.
You're a monster. That's what I'm deciding. Of course, I'm the one who hasn't been to the dentist in 3 years. But I'm saying that it's making sure like you have the expectation. You don't ask them, do you want a follow-up appointment? You say, let's set your next appointment. This is when are you available here? Terry, it sounds like your dentist just didn't. They assumed without communicating with you. So shame on them. So you still have to communicate, but assume the close. You don't ask for the follow-up. You just start setting it.
Yeah. What did Bernadette say? I use the annual review as opportunity.
Yeah, so Bernadette says, I use the annual review as an opportunity to say thank you, and I leave a little thank you card in a goodie bag for them. That's something really important that we didn't cover today is like, what does your client leave with? Like, what do they physically, is there something tangible? Because they're getting ready to spend a bunch of money, and they don't have anything tangible to show for it, except for maybe like a brochure, here and there. So like, do they leave with a goodie bag? Do they leave with a folder? Do they leave, like, what do they have? Of course, they should have their follow-up appointment card that they leave with. So making sure that they have something that they feel like is a tangible thing that they have.
That has your picture, card, information on it.
Absolutely. So guys, let us know any other questions, comments, concerns, threats, or promises, whether about our content today or maybe the health of our teeth. Either it's fine. I'm not proud. I haven't been to a dentist in 3 years. I'm not proud, but like I keep talking about it, so maybe I am a little. But again, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you like our Facebook page. We're going to be putting content on there called What's Brewing, just some updates, some technical things about Medicare. Also, make sure you like our YouTube page. Reminder, guys, Medicare Cafe here in the next few weeks will no longer be available on GoToWebinar and will only be available on YouTube and YouTube Live. So we will still be doing our Tuesday 10 a.m. conference calls or conference conversations. They will just be hosted on YouTube Live. So make sure you go and like and follow and turn on notifications on our YouTube page so that you're notified when we go live. Any other closing thoughts of wisdom about what people should be doing after the appointment?
Leave those notes.
Yeah.
Stay organized. That's my biggest thing.
What's one thing that you're like, it would be appalling to you to not do? Like if you were only given the option to do one thing after an appointment, what would be your thing? A thank you note above everything else? Yeah. I think it's that impactful.
Absolutely. I've had people text me or call me and just say, thank you for sending that thank you note.
Thank you for the thank you. Interesting. Very interesting.
Especially this client, like our generation, like they love handwritten stuff.
They do.
I mean, I love handwritten stuff too, but like no one sends that stuff anymore.
It's like the thought behind it. Like it's not like an automated thing that you just printed off and had sent to me. It shows
took the time
to
put that stamp on there.
And there's this, I never thought of the stamp, but you're 100% right. I always say hand addressed with blue ink because it's hand addressed. Like don't use labels. I think you could use your own like return address label.
Yes.
But like handwrite the client's address, one, because people love to see their own names. So write their name really big, handwrite it so it looks like you took the time, and the blue ink stands out. So they're much more likely to open.
Ink. I like that.
Yeah. We did stuff. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. We will see you on next time. Oh, we're gonna
Not-
do the have fun, make money, and give impeccable service. Okay,
okay.
so we're gonna try this.
All
Here's
right.
the
Bear with
annual,
us.
the starting. Oh, Eugene, really quick, what was the process to be notified? Go to our YouTube page and you can turn on notifications, or just you can like or subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. When you do that, it'll notify you when we go live. Perfect. If you have any issues with that, Eugene, give our office a call. All right. Here is the maiden voyage of us handling our sign off. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So until next time, guys, have fun
Make money.
and give impeccable service. Wasn't bad. That wasn't bad.
I forgot I was joining you on that last part.
We'll see you guys. Thanks.
I was just watching you.